Listen, if you thought Stefon Diggs was going to sit back quietly while Cardi B strutted through Paris Fashion Week on the arm of a Nigerian soccer star, you better sit all the way down, because what Stefon Diggs just did on his brand new YouTube channel is a whole entire circus. Whispers around the block are saying Stefon Diggs is spiraling in real time. He is out here filming himself, blaming God, blaming Cardi B, blaming the universe, and pretending it is a comeback video. Baby, this is not a comeback. This is a public unraveling. And every second of it is on tape. Now, to really understand this, we have to rewind to what set Stefon Diggs off in the first place, because the timeline is everything. Just days before Stefon Diggs suddenly discovered his passion for vlogging, Cardi B walked into Paris Fashion Week looking like she owned the entire arrondissement. And she was not alone. Sitting right next to her, front row, was a young Nigerian soccer player who was doing the absolute most for her. The cameras caught it all. He was fanning her when the room got hot. He was leaning in when she spoke. He was staring at her like she was the entire runway show. And she was staring right back. Cardi B was not hiding a single thing. That balcony moment, those eye contact photos, that soft flirtation between rounds of models walking. All of it was engineered to be seen. And it was seen by the one person Cardi B knew would see it. Stefon Diggs. Because peep the twist. Stefon Diggs was supposed to be there. This was the whole plan. Everybody who has been paying attention knows Stefon Diggs has been trying to build a fashion moment for himself for years. He wants a clothing line. He wants a home decor line. He wants to sit front row at Paris with a superstar girlfriend, cameras clicking, brand deals rolling in. That Paris trip was going to be his relaunch. And instead, Cardi B walked in without him and the internet handed the moment to another man. So what does Stefon Diggs do? 2 days later, he opens a YouTube channel out of nowhere and drops a video called Back in Motion. And baby, if you have not seen it, drop your verdict in the comments below, because to keep it 100, I don't believe he understands what he just revealed about himself. Look, the video is dressed up like a training montage. There is Stefon Diggs in the gym. There is Stefon Diggs stretching. There is Stefon Diggs supposedly locked in on his craft. But the second he opens his mouth, the whole disguise falls apart. Stefon Diggs is not talking about football. Stefon Diggs is talking about God. Stefon Diggs is talking about betrayal. Stefon Diggs is talking about people who used him, left him, and did not appreciate what he brought to the table. It is a training video the way a diary entry is a training video. And by the end of it, Stefon Diggs has thrown Cardi B, the media, his exes, and the Almighty himself into the same defendant's chair, while framing himself as the misunderstood martyr of 2026. And mark my words, the internet is not letting him get away with it. Because here is what Stefon Diggs said toward the end of that video. He said, and I am paraphrasing, that he keeps showing everyone who he really is, and he keeps wondering when they are finally going to believe him. Sir. 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 Everyone sees exactly who you are. That is not the problem. The problem is that what you are showing us is the receipt. Stefon Diggs is standing in front of a camera asking the world to see the version of him he pictures in his own head, while ignoring every headline, every court case, every baby mama count, every lawsuit, every Super Bowl loss, and every messy chapter he wrote himself. And the delusion of it is the story. Now, to be fair, we have to give Stefon Diggs credit where credit is due. Stefon Diggs is grinding. Stefon Diggs is putting in the hours. Stefon Diggs is trying to look like a man who is serious about his career again. The fitness content is legitimate. The routine is disciplined. If Stefon Diggs had simply posted the workout footage, captioned it "Back in Motion," and shut the camera off, we would be praising him this morning. But watch this. Stefon Diggs could not resist. He had to open the door to the sob story. He had to sneak in the blame. He had to hint at Cardi B without saying her name. And the moment he did that, the entire narrative flipped from redemption arc to bitter baby daddy energy. And you'll never guess the line that broke the internet. Stefon Diggs said we should all be careful what we ask God for. He implied that whatever hardship he went through this year was somehow the result of a prayer he made. Baby, no. Let me be very clear about this, because Stefon Diggs is trying to smuggle a theological excuse past a very smart audience. God is not a genie. God is not a wish master. The gifts of God come with peace, not with pancake collapses of your personal life. If Stefon Diggs is having a rough year, it is not because heaven answered a prayer with irony. It is because Stefon Diggs made choices. Stefon Diggs kept making those choices. And Stefon Diggs is now trying to spiritualize the consequences of those choices so he does not have to say the word accountability out loud. Because that is the word missing from the entire 10 minutes of that YouTube video. Accountability. Not once does Stefon Diggs stand there and say, I did this. Not once does Stefon Diggs stand there and say, the Super Bowl loss had everything to do with my head being in 100 different places off the field. Not once does Stefon Diggs stand there and say, the reason Cardi B moved on so fast is that I gave her every reason to. Instead, Stefon Diggs frames himself as a great player and a great man who was surrounded by ungrateful people. And whispers around the block are saying the teams evaluating him right now are noticing exactly that. Look, football is a game. Life is not. Stefon Diggs seems to believe that being elite on the field should function as an all-access pass through every off-field mistake he has ever made. That is not how the league works anymore. That is not how endorsements work anymore. That is not how brand partners work anymore. Teams look at the total man. And when the total man comes with lawsuits from other men, alleged elevator altercations, a swirl of women, a viral breakup with a global superstar, and now a YouTube channel where he blames God, teams pump the brakes. That is a liability. And Stefon Diggs cannot outrun that math with an inspirational voiceover. Now that I'm putting the pieces together, this is where the story gets darker for Stefon Diggs, because there is a legal receipt sitting on top of everything else. Word broke this same week that the man known simply as Chris, the man at the center of one of the most talked about Stefon Diggs adjacent lawsuits of the past few years, just settled a case tied directly to the Diggs family for $10 million. $10 million. Read that number again. And the settlement was not with Stefon Diggs personally. It was with Stefon Diggs's brother, who was allegedly working for Stefon Diggs at the time of the incident. Believe me, if a person you employ settles a $10 million case connected to conduct that happened while they were on your payroll, the world is going to ask a very obvious question. Who actually paid that settlement? Allegedly. 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 But you get the picture. And this is exactly what Stefon Diggs was tap dancing around in that YouTube video without ever naming it. Stefon Diggs kept alluding to a court case, kept alluding to being found not guilty, kept alluding to how the process wrecked his mental during the season. Sir, being found not guilty of one specific accusation is not the same as being cleared of the pattern. The pattern is what the teams are staring at. The pattern is what the sponsors are staring at. The pattern is what Cardi B is walking away from in 6-inch heels with a Nigerian soccer star fanning her at Paris Fashion Week. And Stefon Diggs is standing on a treadmill trying to spin the pattern into a testimony. Now let us talk about Cardi B for a moment, because Cardi B has done something in the last 2 weeks that deserves a full breakdown. Cardi B did not go on a podcast. Cardi B did not post a paragraph. Cardi B did not throw shots on Instagram Live. Cardi B walked into the highest fashion room in the world, sat down next to a beautiful man who was clearly enamored with her, allowed the cameras to eat, gave the internet every angle it needed, and then she moved on with her life. That is not a girlfriend acting out. That is a superstar performing closure with precision. Cardi B knew what she was doing at Paris Fashion Week. Cardi B knew Stefon Diggs would see it. Cardi B knew the balcony shot would trend. And Cardi B still walked into that room and gave the audience the exact shot the audience wanted. That is craft. And that is why Stefon Diggs is spiraling. Because Cardi B did not need to write a diss track. Cardi B did not need to sit down for an interview. Cardi B did not need to say Stefon Diggs's name a single time. Cardi B simply existed publicly, in the presence of a new man, in a room Stefon Diggs desperately wanted to be in, and the internet did the rest. Stefon Diggs was left with two options. Say nothing and take the loss with dignity, or say something and confirm the meltdown. Stefon Diggs chose the meltdown. Stefon Diggs opened a YouTube channel. Stefon Diggs pointed the camera at himself. And Stefon Diggs handed the world a document of his own emotional bleeding. Now let me back up for a second, because I want you to really sit with the Paris footage one more time, since this is the visual that lit the entire fuse. Cardi B was not just present at that show. Cardi B was the moment inside the moment. Look at how she was dressed. Look at how she was positioned in the frame. Look at how the photographers angled themselves around her chair, not the runway. Cardi B walked into that room understanding that her body language was going to write the entire narrative for the next 7 news cycles, and she wrote it with a smirk. And right there in the middle of the shot is the Nigerian soccer star, playing his role with the calm of a man who knows exactly what kind of picture is being taken. He is not overreaching. He is not grabbing her hand for the cameras. He is simply attentive, and attention on a woman like Cardi B is currency. Every single one of those photographs is a subtweet aimed directly at Stefon Diggs. And Stefon Diggs, sitting in some quiet room somewhere, saw every frame land. And peep this, because this part is important. Stefon Diggs in that video started talking about how he suddenly values his privacy more than anything, because being publicly connected to Cardi B exposed parts of his life he did not want exposed. Sir. That is the whole point. You wanted the visibility. You wanted the Fashion Week seat. You wanted the brand launch platform. You wanted the fame currency that comes with dating a woman of Cardi B's scale. But you did not want the receipts that ride shotgun with that fame. That is not on Cardi B. That is not on God. That is on Stefon Diggs. And Stefon Diggs pretending that Cardi B walked into his life carrying a bomb is the biggest lie in the entire video. Cardi B walked into his life carrying a mirror. And Stefon Diggs did not like the reflection. Now let us talk about the delusion, because this is the part that has the internet howling. At the tail end of that YouTube upload, Stefon Diggs looks at the camera and asks when everyone is going to finally see who he really is. Baby. We see. The problem is you keep changing what you want us to see. First you want us to see the elite receiver. Then you want us to see the family man. Then you want us to see the fashion mogul. Then you want us to see the wounded ex. Now you want us to see the spiritual philosopher on a treadmill. Stefon Diggs is doing a personality brand rotation in real time, and every version he pushes gets contradicted by the next headline. That is not a comeback. That is a rebrand carousel. And the algorithm knows the difference. And whispers around the block are saying the platform choice itself is a receipt. Think about it. Stefon Diggs did not do this on Instagram. Stefon Diggs did not go live on X. Stefon Diggs did not sit down with an established sports journalist and take real questions. Stefon Diggs picked YouTube. Stefon Diggs picked a format where he controls the edit, the runtime, the frame, the music, the caption, and the comments. That is not a man who is ready to be accountable in public. That is a man who is trying to write his own press release while pretending it is a workout diary. And you can tell, because the second Cardi B is even indirectly mentioned in a headline about him, the algorithm starts pumping the traffic. Stefon Diggs knows that. Stefon Diggs is trading on Cardi B audience reach while claiming he wants nothing to do with her spotlight. You cannot have it both ways. And the internet, honey, the internet keeps receipts on that too. And let us not forget the timing of the settlement, because it is doing a lot of heavy lifting in the background of this entire story. $10 million quietly changing hands the same week Cardi B is fanning herself in Paris. $10 million quietly changing hands the same week Stefon Diggs suddenly discovers YouTube. $10 million quietly changing hands the same week a coach is on camera in that back-in-motion upload telling Stefon Diggs, in so many words, that the only story attached to his name has to be football and nothing else. That is not a coincidence. That is a cleanup operation. Stefon Diggs is trying to sweep the floor before the next team he wants to sign for walks in and checks under the rug. Look, let us be honest with ourselves. We want Stefon Diggs to win. We want Stefon Diggs to get picked up by a team that lets him ball out. We want Stefon Diggs to sit down, do the therapy, take the accountability, and come back next season looking like a man who learned something. That story exists. That story is available to him. But that story does not begin with a YouTube video where he vaguely blames Cardi B and openly blames God. That story begins with silence. That story begins with work. That story begins with the moment Stefon Diggs decides that his growth is not a piece of content and that his healing is not a monetizable asset. And believe me, Stefon Diggs is not there yet. Because if Stefon Diggs was there, he would not be watching Cardi B's Paris Fashion Week clips on a loop the way the internet suspects he is. He would not be uploading a back-in-motion video suspiciously timed 48 hours after his ex's viral balcony moment. He would not be dropping cryptic lines about God and betrayal and privacy in the same monologue where he is supposed to be squatting. Every choice he made in that video is a tell. And the internet, sis, the internet reads tells for a living. Now that I'm putting the pieces together, here is what is really going on beneath all of this, and I want you to sit with it for a second. Stefon Diggs is not mourning Cardi B, Stefon Diggs is mourning the version of himself he was supposed to become with Cardi B. The one with the fashion line. The one with the front row seat at Paris. The one whose Super Bowl loss got softened by a red carpet win with the biggest female rapper on the planet. That version of Stefon Diggs got cancelled the moment Cardi B moved on. And the video we are all watching is Stefon Diggs trying, in real time, to figure out who he is without her spotlight aimed at him. That is why the tone keeps shifting. That is why the theology keeps sliding in. That is why he cannot stop talking about being misunderstood. Stefon Diggs is grieving a career strategy, not a woman. And this is where the Nigerian soccer player becomes even more interesting. Because think about the optics. This man walked into Paris Fashion Week, sat next to Cardi B, treated her with visible attention and softness, and did not once try to make himself the story. He handed her a fan. He leaned in for her comfort. He allowed the flirtation to breathe without turning it into a performance. Compare that, side by side, to Stefon Diggs monologuing on YouTube about his hardships. One of these men understands how to be present with a woman like Cardi B. The other one is filming himself in a gym mirror wondering why she left. The camera does not lie. The internet does not lie. And Cardi B, of all people, absolutely does not lie about who is treating her well and who is not. And this is the part where the sports side of the story fuses with the celebrity side, and most people covering this are missing it. Because whether Stefon Diggs likes it or not, his football career is now marketed inside the Cardi B cinematic universe. The moment he walked into that relationship publicly, his brand became a hybrid brand. His jerseys sold to her audience. His interviews got clipped by her fan pages. His fashion attempts got amplified by her stylists' networks. So when Cardi B pulled away, she did not just take herself. She took a promotion engine. And Stefon Diggs is now discovering, in real time, what his platform actually looks like without her wattage plugged into it. That is a harsh audit for any man to face at any age, let alone at this stage of a career. And instead of taking that audit like a professional, Stefon Diggs pointed a camera at himself and pressed record. Believe me, that will be studied. Look, the lesson here is not just about Stefon Diggs. The lesson is about every man who thinks his talent gives him a buy from his character. It does not. It never has. Football is a game. Rap is a stage. Fashion is a runway. But life is the whole entire arena. And when Stefon Diggs steps back onto whatever field he ends up on next, he is going to carry every one of these video moments with him. The team owner will have seen it. The coach will have seen it. The teammates will have seen it. The sponsors will have seen it. And they will all quietly ask the same question. Is this man ready to be a professional? Or is this man still processing his ex-girlfriend in front of a ring light? And drop your verdict in the comments below, because I want to hear it. Do you think Stefon Diggs is genuinely trying to change, and this YouTube video is just a rocky first draft of a Real comeback? Or do you think Stefon Diggs is doing what a certain kind of man always does when a woman like Cardi B walks away, which is grab the loudest microphone in the room and start rewriting the story with himself as the victim? Because from where I am standing, this back in motion video is not motion. It is a mirror. And Stefon Diggs is going to have to decide whether he is going to look into it honestly or keep angling it for likes. Baby, Cardi B is fine. Cardi B is at Paris Fashion Week. Cardi B has a man across the room who cannot take his eyes off of her. Cardi B has moved into the next chapter with the elegance of a woman who has done this before and has survived worse. The person we should all be watching is Stefon Diggs. Because everything he does over the next 90 days will tell us whether he learned something from losing Cardi B or whether he is going to double down on the blame game until nobody, and I do mean nobody, wants to answer his phone calls. That is the real story here. That is the story nobody is telling yet. And that is the story we are going to keep tracking, because whispers around the block are saying this YouTube video is only chapter 1. So mark my words. Stefon Diggs is at a fork in the road. Down one path is silence, therapy, football, growth, and the slow rebuild of a man who accepts what he did to his own life. Down the other path is more YouTube videos, more cryptic monologues, more subtle Cardi B references, more spiritual excuses, and a slow drift into a place no team wants to touch. Which one Stefon Diggs picks is entirely on Stefon Diggs. Cardi B has already picked hers. She is fanning herself on a balcony in Paris. She has already turned the page. And she is not looking back. Now the only question left is whether Stefon Diggs finishes his book, or keeps rewriting the same chapter until the world stops reading. Drop your verdict in the comments below. Tell me which Stefon Diggs you think shows up next. And keep it locked here, because the second the next update drops, we are unpacking the whole thing together.